But my crew and Jack weren't so lucky. Last time I saw Jack, he was clutching some feathers as he fell, like they'd stop him from falling. So I guess we've come to another moment in this playthrough where I sort of sit and pontificate and sort of go over my thoughts. And so let's talk about authenticity. In my writings in the last couple of months, I've struggled with the notion of authenticity in games and how it might be expressed. And I mean it almost in the existential sense, the way that Sartre does, right? So authentic action, authentic character, authenticity in art. To some degree, I've conflated authenticity with honesty, and I don't think that's necessarily like a category mistake, but it is still, I mean, there's a difference. And while Skies is a very honest game, I believe it's also a very authentic one. There's no affectation, there's no pretension. All the game's sort of facticities are laid bare, and you know, this is expressed in some ways in the general simplicity and, dare I say, elegance of the mechanics and systems. But it's mostly something easily defined in the narrative structure of the game. So here, with Drachma, we have a trope that's like super tired and old, and like almost as tired and old as Drachma himself is. The root of his bitterness is tied to the loss of a loved one. This is pretty simple writing, and it's so simple that we often sort of publicly deride the times it's used, as though the mere existence of such a narrative trick is like an unforgivable sin, right? We make fun of this trope when it's used. Oh, it's so simple. It's such a cheap way of characterizing things. By all rights, this moment shouldn't work. At least not to the ever deconstructing and judgmental eyes of the modern audience. I think it does, and I think it works because it's honest and authentic. This is an earned pathos. It is pathos not only gained through our time controlling Drachma as an actor, but also time spent with him as a character. And this marked change, this moment of vulnerability, is earned and comes with one of the most visually evocative images in the game, which is really interesting because it's an image that we don't get to see. Yet it is an image that we can picture clear in our minds, as clearly as Drachma might be picturing it in his mind right now. A young boy falling into the impossible, unending sky, clutching feathers in the hopes that they might lift him back up to safety. I've talked at times about meaning making and semiotics in games, and images in games hold a host of possible reference and meanings in our minds that give them power beyond the mere like raw emotional value that's generated in the moment. Here, like, I guess I see, I don't know, it makes me think of a mindset that might not even exist anymore. Jack sort of falls away from Drachma the same way that wonder seems to be falling away from, like, the modern world, right? It's a thought I stress and explicate on time and time again when I write. We are not what we once were, I don't think. We have lost something. Games are not well. Not anymore. Or at least not in a majority sense. We've retained a certain sense of play, particularly on the alt game edge, where games can sometimes seem sort of teasing and even flirtatious, which is a really wonderful sort of engagement with a game, but I still think we've lost a lot. We are very jaded. We cast jaded eyes at nearly everything we are presented with. There's very, very little wonder left. It's gone. It's fallen away. The small fragments of it that we do find and that we cling to, you know, they can't hold us aloft. Tying it back into the feather image, we sort of are plummeting the same way that Jack is. No matter how hard we are clutching on to certain things, and games sort of just limp on. I've said that this game makes me believe in heroes, and it does. But it also reminds me of how few of them we have, and how little joy sometimes we seem to find in games. We sort of dice up games the moment that we see them or engage with them. Each new piece of artwork, each new trailer, each new game when it's released, should be like an animal that we can bond with or examine the splendor of, maybe, right? But in today's culture, we hasten the metaphorical hunt. We capture the creature and we keep it alive and vivisect it in a quest for meaning and strew all the guts about. You know, we ask ourselves, you know, what made the animal special, as we sort of look down on the table where all the little bits of viscera are. We fail to sit back and wonder at the majesty we felt when we saw the creature, and in this case, let's just say that the animal is a game. We so often forget that first moment of contact, of engagement with the thing. We care so much. We care so fucking much about the parts rather than the sum. We intellectualize games far more than we ever feel them. And I'm not suggesting that intellectualizing games is wrong. Some of the best things I've ever read have been strong formal analyses of games. Very long and focused exegesis of text. But we don't always talk about what games make us feel, or how they make us feel, or why it is important that they make us feel, and it is fucking important that they make us feel. You know, it's so hard for me to sort of put my words into thought, so I hope you'll pardon me the indulgence as I think about it. I guess it all comes back to why I want to share this game with you. And it's because I want to share a feeling. I want to share an adventure. Let's go crazy with the bird feather metaphors. I want to show you a rare bird with beautiful feathers. I want to impress, with no small part of terrible presumption upon my part, a truth that I feel you, audience member, listener, may have lost, or at least I want to reaffirm a truth that I think we are losing sometimes in our pursuit of a more intellectualized, codified understanding of games and and game experiences. Games are experiences. Games are feeling. Games are empathy. And I think earlier I mentioned the ESA thing. So, you know, not only are we losing older games like Skies of Arcadia, and we have most assuredly lost games far older than that, of incredible value, but we are losing our emotions sometimes. We're losing the feelings that games generate. We shunt them off to the side and we don't pay attention to them as much. And it's sort of an existential battle on many different fronts. But we need to reclaim a certain hope and optimism. A certain hope and optimism that we've lost. Skepticism is easy. Skepticism is easy, and it's ugly, and sometimes it is rightly earned, but we have become cynical. We have become pessimistic. I've tried so many ways to try and suss out this point. I have written about it. I have ranted about it. I have done so much to try and figure out what is happening. Because something is. And maybe I'm being melodramatic and maybe I'm being emotional, but there are worse things to be than that. At least I'm being honest. At least this moment here, I hope, is authentic. Why do I want to share this game with you? I want to because I hope that by sharing this with you, this experience with you, I can share even one modicum, one atom of the hope that I feel playing this game.